Hey, you guys, I'm excited to talk to you today about pain before change and things that can help you create major change in your life, things that halt you from creating major change in your life, and just a whole bunch of tips on things for you to transform and for you to understand what it actually takes for you to transform here on the Craving Consciousness podcast. So excited to share this with you guys. You know, my life has changed dramatically and dramatically over the last year. And that's why I wanted to share some of this knowledge with you. Also, I'm such a spiritual science nerd. I've studied so much about what goes on in your mind and all the things with your genes and your emotions on how that can help you create change or how it stops you from creating change, which is more uh which happens more is what I'm trying to say. Stopping the change, because really, you guys, a lot of people don't change. They just go through the same emotions every single day. They may have a few different thoughts, but they never really do anything about it. So they consistently manifest the same human experience over and over until they're like hitting their head on the wall. So things that spark change is pain. And so I wanted to talk about the pain because it's not until you're so uncomfortable that you make a decision to create change most of the time. It's very, very rare where someone will say, okay, I'm going to create major change right now because I want a better life, not because something is painful in my life now. It's most of the time when something traumatic happens, or you get fired from a job, you have a divorce, or somebody passes away, or you have a child, or you get so sick of your shit, like you're struggling, maybe it's your health, um you know maybe it's your mindset, and you get so sick of it that you make this final decision to create change. That's usually when it happens. It doesn't usually just happen on your own where you're like, hey, wake up one morning and I'm going to make some massive changes to my life just so that it'll be better. And there's so many things that halt your change, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about too. um because the reason why I want to talk about this is because for me to create so much change in my life, from I'm thinking about even like 8 years ago when I was super broke, super depressed, super didn't realize why I was this good person and why life was happening to me, right? um when I did try to create change, I started following other entrepreneurs and being like, okay, well, I've got to get up in the morning and I've got to do this, and I need to meditate for 5 minutes, and I got to read 10 pages of a book, and I got to journal. And all those things are great. But when you all of a sudden create like this new strict protocol, what happens? If anybody's like me, you get like angry, and you start becoming like this rebellion. Um, and it's hard to all of a sudden just have all this new routine. Or another thing is like taking things away from yourself, especially if you're going to be talking about, like, say you're going to go on a diet. And so all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't have any of these things. So your ego is like, no, wait a minute. I could do what I want. Right? Like, how many of you guys are rebels? Like, I could do what I want. So taking things away from yourself or creating a super strict routine. While having that routine is great. I met this person not too long ago, and he was so into self-development. And he was like, I do this, 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 and this, and this. And it's exactly 10 minutes of meditation, exactly 10 pages of books. And while those things are great, if you're doing it just methodological, whatever the word is I'm looking for, methodical, and you're not actually doing it because it feels good, if you're kind of doing it to be strict about it, then you're all over into the masculine, and you're not into the feminine of the flow, and knowing that, yeah, those are great tools. Meditation, journaling, all those things are great tools, and it's great to have those included in your routine. But if you're so like logic about it, then you're missing out on the energy, you're missing out on the magic, you're missing out on the flow behind all of it. So like when I was talking to that guy, I was like, spirit was coming through, because he's like, well, read my energy. And I'm like, all these things that you're doing is great. But spirit came through, and they were like, we want him to not try to be in control so much. He was all into the control zone. Like, he was doing those things so his business will become more successful. And yeah, maybe at first he was seeing a little bit more success, But what will end up happening, it'll crumble down because he's so into the masculine. He's completely missing out on that flow and the trust and the faith of the universe, and being in coherence with your heart, right? Versus logic, going after like the money or success or whatever his end result was. Knowing that you're supported by universe, and doing the meditation when it feels good, journaling when it feels good, because you want to, not because you have to, is my whole point here. Another thing that halts our major change is those repetitive thoughts. I've talked about this on a couple of the most recent episodes here, that create neural pathways. We talk about these repetitive thoughts, what wires together, fires together. So even though in the morning you might be like, all right, I'm changing my mindset, I'm doing this, instantly you'll get a trigger. It could be the smell of your coffee. It could be a voice on the radio. It could be anything that sends you back into the monkey mind of that 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And you just automatically go back into machine mode, because your neural pathways are so thick. So whatever you worry about the most, like you're creating this massive highway where those thoughts just keep running constantly without you actually being aware of what's going on. And then those thoughts trigger emotion, trigger genes, which goes out into the quantum field. So those repetitive thoughts are actually helping you manifest the same experience that you've been having. So that's something else that could slow you down. And not being in this coherent energy, so important. When I say coherent energy, it's when you're in the zone. It's when your heart energy is in alignment with your mind and your thoughts energy, and you're trusting, and you just feel great. You're grounded. You're in this present moment. You actually emit this frequency that is more coherent with the quantum field, which the quantum field can respond to in a more positive fashion, versus all these like sporadic, worries, and then the emotions that are going along with it. When we're here in this present moment and we actually do our meditation and we get into this space where our energy is coherent, the waves of the frequency are coherent instead of choppy all over the place, then you're going to get a lot better results. And this is talking about stimulating the quantum field, because the quantum field is everything, right? The quantum field is everything, and there's no such thing as time or space. So this frequency will stimulate instantly something that matches your frequency and bring you the same, right? So important to be in this energetic space of faith and trust, and flow. And then another thing that stops you from creating change is it's your body. We always forget about the body. Like it's its mind of its own. It's its own entity, so to say. So like your body is used to like waking up. It's used to moving a certain way. So you just constantly are like, okay, well, now it's time to go get that cup of coffee. Now it's time to do this and this and this. So it's important for you to interrupt the body's machinery, if you will, the body's consistent thing that it's always doing, and being more aware, like, do you really want the cup of coffee? Right. And then your thoughts always follow the way you feel. So it's important to recognize how your body feels versus the thoughts that's running through your head, because you could stop the thoughts, right? But being aware of like your body. So if you wake up and you're really tired, or you're maybe sore, maybe you're sick, your thoughts will start running along with that, making up a story around how your body feels. So it'll be like, oh, I'm a piece of crap, I'm lazy, and so I'm not going to do these tasks today. And here we go again. I'm never going to make it, blah, 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 blah. All those thoughts are following because of the way your body feels. So it's important to be aware of the thoughts and stop them, even if your physical body is not feeling the greatest, especially if your physical body is not feeling the greatest, to be super aware and super present about the thoughts that are happening during that day. And then here's another great trick for you guys. This is something that can halt some of your change, but it's also something when shifted that can create amazing change. So we all have certain beliefs about something. And it depends like what kind of change you're thinking about, but like, let's say like weight loss or whatever. Something I used to say is like, you will never see me running unless somebody's chasing me. Like this body won't run. But that's like a belief I created. And it's like funny, right? Ha ha. Ha. There's a trauma. Like they always say when you're like hiding behind humor that there's some trauma in there. But that's like some story I made up a long time ago that I just will automatically believe, right? Snapping my fingers, that automatically believe. So if I see somebody running, I'll be like, well, that's never going to be me because I ain't running unless somebody's running after me. But we get to change that. And that's when I was talking about, dimension hopping. So then say you decide, I'm going to give running a try. All of a sudden you broke this belief, right? Even if you don't enjoy the running, now at least you were like, I ran and nobody was chasing me. And then you start to open up the space for a new belief to come in, or you start to be able to, deplete that old belief and get rid of that neural pathway that goes with. And it's funny because we'll say those things to other people that also believe that, because they'll be like, oh, me either, girl. Like, I'm not running unless somebody chases me either. So think of different beliefs that you have around the changes that you want to make. Another one would be like, for me, when I think about going to the pool, I want to take my cocktail and I just want to sit at the edge and get sun and maybe read some of my book, right? But a new belief I had was, guess what? What if you went to the pool without a drink and you swam some laps? Like, right? Who are we to be changing these beliefs? But when you do that, everything shifts around that belief. Everything shifts around the change that I don't want to say trying, the change that you are actively working on changing, right? Creating. Or if it comes down to love, like, I'll never find true love. I always attract these jerks. Or, people say these random stories all the time and they say them to other people. And sometimes those other people are in their same circle. So they like solidify it, or they agree and they make it more concrete for that person. We get to change what we think about around these things. You get to change saying, I manifest amazing love. I go swimming and swim laps. I go running without somebody's chasing me, right? So you get to choose. Here's the other thing too. At the very beginning, I was talking about most people don't create change until that pain. Either you're sick of your own shit or something outside of yourself shifted. Like right when we were talking about 2020, look how many people changed their careers. Look how many people changed because the universe shook them to wake them. I talk about that all the time. But you get to choose to make this change before you experience pain, right? You get to. And why not? Why not sit there and go, okay, I want to know, more about my body, the somatics, the energy that gets stuck in there. I want to know more about the coherence between my heart and my mind and the quantum field. And I want to know about how my emotions trigger the genes in my body that affect my health. And I feel like, because I'm such a science nerd over here, I feel like for me, doing all that studying, doing all that work, it created like an actual scientific proof on what you need to do or change in order to change from within and start seeing outside of yourself a different human experience. And absolutely freaking works. That's why I love the science about it, because there's so many people that are like, manifest this, manifest that, say your affirmations, journal in your journal book, those are all freaking great. But for me, when you can wrap your head around the science and that there's actual proof that if you, start adding these things in or understanding where you're getting blocked, then you have scientific proof that you just need to shift a few things and that your life will start changing for better for it. So I hope this helped you guys. I am here for something big is coming up in 2023. I want to help people create that major change. So if you want to know more information, hit me up. I'm on Instagram at I am Brendaline right now. And then of course, YouTube, Brendaline Johnson, and on the Craving Consciousness podcast. So hit me up, send me an email, go to my website, and stay tuned for something that's coming big on creating change, where I'm going to be working with people to actually implement a lot of this in 2023.